What's next? This is a question we're all having to ask and answer more frequently. I'm Jenny Blake, your host of the Pivot Podcast and author of Pivot, The Only Move That Matters Is Your Next One. For show notes from this episode, visit pivotmethod.com/podcast. If change is the only constant, then let's get better at it. Here we go. Hello, my friends. I am so delighted, overjoyed, exploding with glee to introduce some of you to one of my favorite artists of all time, Nahko. Some of you may already be fans of his music. Maybe you're obsessed like I am. In any case, I wanted to record an intro to this episode for two reasons. One, to tell you, this is as awkward and as nervous as I get. Oh my goodness, I've been podcasting for 5 years. There's a small handful of people where I was truly nervous, like heart pounding out of my chest, preparing all day and the day prior to come to the interview. And so that's been the case here. I even clipped some of the pre-record outtakes. I'm going to call them bloopers, and they're going to go at the very end of the episode. So if you listen till the end, you get to hear me in my most awkward, nervous podcasting glory. But it's a good sign because it means for me, when I'm this nervous, whether it's for a speaking gig or a podcast interview, it means that I have actually gone out of my way to reach, to stretch out of my comfort zone, to try to get in touch with one of my heroes. And in this case, after first emailing Nahko's team in 2018, they said yes in 2020. We had a really chill, laid-back conversation. We jump all over the place. I was so grateful that he made the time to do this interview. He has a lot going on, and it was like talking to an old friend. Nahko was having toast. It was the morning for him. You'll just be sitting there shooting the breeze with us. I hope you enjoy. And if I'm introducing you to him and his music for the first time, holy cowbunga, what an exciting day. Please, when you're done listening to this interview, go look up Nahko and Medicine for the People on Spotify and have a blast. I have so many favorite songs. I'm going to put a couple links in the show notes, but just enjoy that. And I hope you do listen till the very end because he so generously offered to play one of my favorites live in the interview at the very end. I have to tell you, listeners, this almost made my heart explode because here I am, someone whose music I've listened to almost daily for 5 years, to get a one-on-one concert at the end. I almost fainted. I mean, I truly felt like 5 years of podcasting had led me to be present for this exact type of moment. And it's one of those priceless benefits that I'm always talking about podcasting, that it's not just about the numbers. It's not just about the stats. It's not just about how many listeners and how much money you're making and what is it doing for the business. This moment of Nahko playing one of my favorite songs live, essentially one-on-one, and knowing I get to share it back out with all of you, it's just mind-blowing. So I hope you enjoy. And before we even get into the interview, I want to tell you a little more about his official bio. I don't give too much of this when I introduce him because we were kind of just riffing before we even hit record. So we just jump, you'll kind of jump right into the middle of the conversation with us. A little bit more about him. Nahko is an Oregon native-born mix of Puerto Rican, Native American, and Filipino bloodlines who considers himself a citizen in service to the planet. Disillusioned by the world around him and inspired by vagabond Americana musicians and storytellers like Conor Oberst and Bob Dylan, Nahko left home as a teenager in search of adventure and self-discovery. Armed with stories, a guitar, and a fierce set of ideals, he set out to bridge the cultural gaps dividing his own psyche. He began producing a public musical journal of his journey toward personal, spiritual, and social healing, and thus Medicine for the People was born. Nahko describes his music as a mix of hip-hop and folk rock with a world message. And his latest album, Take Your Power Back, debuted on May 15th and hit the Billboard charts for #1 emerging artists, #3 alternative album, and #5 top albums. Without further ado, I bring you Nahko. What do you do when you're interviewing one of your heroes? I don't know the answer, but that's my guest today. His music has been the soundtrack to everything important in my life these last 5 years. Solo journeying in Bali, writing and then launching Pivot, my most recent book, meeting my husband, getting married, navigating this pandemic. Nahko is an artist, a seeker, a storyteller, and a medicine man with his soulful music. And one thing I love about his music is that it's at the intersection of deep personal introspection with incredible activism and social justice. Nahko, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show today. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm surprised you're not talking to me since I'm around you all the time with all these things. I've been doing all this stuff with you, and it's like, it's great you don't get tired of me, you know?
It's amazing that I don't. I mean, it would be embarrassing. I was actually trying to find my Spotify listen stats. It would just be completely humiliating if I told you how many listens. I truly, Nahko, there's a playlist. It's just called Nahko with a little heart emoji, like a nerdy carrot and then a 3. And I've had it for many years. Every time an album comes out, I just add to it. And then I even found all the one-offs that aren't on your album.
But if you go on YouTube, that's where the deep dive really happens, because when I first started writing songs and recording them on a camera, YouTube had just, come out.
The video I love on YouTube is, I think you're singing Black as Night in your truck. I mean, maybe that one's just so mainstream now because I think it's one of your more popular videos, but I love that video.
Thank you.
It's so chill. It's like, and that's what I love about Nahko's been doing Sunday services, performing music every Sunday since the pandemic started. You just jumped right on that. But I love how you're willing to not willing. It's your medicine. As you say, you play for yourself as much as for others. But I love the acoustic side as much as the albums themselves.
Thank you. I think I'm going to actually recreate that music video, but do Skin in the Game off of the new album because it's the same tuning. And I was like, oh, it can be cool to do a, however many years later, 10 years later, same kind of vibe, similar style of song, and then do a VH1 pop-up. VH1 pop-up videos need to come back.
I remember VH1 pop-ups with all the fun facts and then
yeah. Right?
Why don't you do that?
I was obsessed with those videos. Whatever happened to those things?
Yes.
Right?
And then you know what you need to intersperse?
Let's go. When
you did the roast and people did all those roast images of you on Instagram.
Oh. Well, I forget how I approached that, but I was like, I want to see everybody's memes of me or whatever.
I was dying. How did you even get the idea to do a roast? And then do you know how many submissions you got for that?
I forget because I just put it on my story and I was like, show me your best memes of me or something like this. I can't remember what I said, but there was a handful of folks that were consistently sending me stuff. And it was hysterical to see people's creativity. I mean, the Nacho Libre and
oh my God. Yeah.
I love the one of me in yoga pants dancing with Fallon. Me as an avatar, I don't know, it was just bizarre. It was classic. E.T. as E.T.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know if you made the E.T. one. That one's so funny. And then there's one, because I think they all use the same photo, right? I only just saw it in passing, but yeah. And then there's one you're deep in reflection and it's I just farted or something how did that fart smell?
Yeah. It's hey girl.
Yeah.
We're not going there. Or
oh yeah.
I'm not going to be there for your birthday or something like that. I don't know. It was just random, but people are creative. And that photo is just because it's out there, I was like, you know what? I hate this photo and I hate it so much that I'm going to let everyone just grab it and do something hilarious with it.
See, that's such a great strategy. What don't you like about the photo?
For me, it's the easiest way to get out of something where you're oh my God, I can't believe they used that photo for that thing. Why? There was a girl that actually tattooed that photo on her arm.
My gosh. Do you get a lot of that? Do you get a lot of people tattooing?
I was I don't know about that.
That would, that's intense. That's intense.
I mean, I wanted to be excited for her because I didn't want her to think
Of
it was,
course.
you know.
Of course.
So I was like, that's so cool, you know, but I was like, I would never, ever tell you to do that. If you ask me if you should do it. I mean, I think it's, you know, at the heart of it, it's endearing because, you know, it really means something to them. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange when somebody touches their face.
It's your face.
To your face,
Right.
to their body. It's a little, you know.
You know what I like about this story of making a roast out of the photo that you're over is it's like taking your power back. So even to the album theme of the latest album's called Take Your Power Back. And this is a simple, subtle way. Like, here's one photo that annoys me. It's out there. Let's do a roast about it. And it plays on your silly side as well, which is, I appreciate that. Like, you have such a just lighthearted sense of humor about things. And that roast, I mean, it's just classic.
But it also, like, it actually also helps you let go of the, you know,
yes,
the whole feeling of needing to worry about it. Cause, you know, I don't know. That's just how I work though. Like I'm down for people to laugh at me because of something that I think is also really funny. And I'm like, yeah, it's not, go for
right.
it.
Take Your Power Back, the new album, is set to come out May 15th, 5/15/20. And I had been counting down, by the way. As soon as the date was set, I had the reminder in my phone. And how could you have known? First of all, the title of the album, Take Your Power Back, is so prescient for the times that we're in. It's so necessary now, especially with the country in protests and standing up for Black Lives Matter. And even when I started reaching out to your team, I had emailed over a year ago, but then I followed up. But it was still pre so many of these like protests that have been happening. And yet it builds on your previous albums. So much of your work is about activism and integration and doing the work from the inside out and showing up for that work to change society. And when you set the album date, I'm sure you could, of course, no one can predict that a pandemic is about to hit and you're going to cancel your tour. So it must be the longest you've even been home for a stretch, I would imagine.
Almost. I was 2018 into 2019 over that winter period. I was actually home for 6 months as we were preparing and writing for this album. But yeah, I mean, this is certainly unprecedented to be home. I was meant to kind of be home a little bit, you know, that there was no major tour we had planned until the fall. And so there was like, you know, a couple trips here and there. I was meant to go to Chile and play in Lollapalooza and do a solo 2-week run in Europe and some other festivals, but it wasn't like it was crazy busy. We were sort of saving ourselves for the summer and the fall, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. You can't write this, you know, you can't, it is what it is. It just literally came out at the right time, like literally, to support what's happening and fortify a space within our community and the community abroad that's discovering the medicine to, like, you know, have something to maintain and hold them, cradle them in that way. And it's fascinating. I mean, yeah, certainly I've had some friends be like, dude, how did you know? I was like, dude, I didn't know, you know? So it's fascinating to witness. I mean, literally, I think that the timing, it's crazy to say this, but I think that the situation in the world right now is actually, it helps bring this music to people in a bigger way because they're at home and they have more of it. They're on their phones, there's whatever, and they're looking for stuff. Now people are in the streets and they're like, discovering, you know, people, speakers, teachers, you know, protocols, education materials. Like, you know, people are looking into public records and laws and budgets and, you know, who's sitting in what seats at the council of whatever. And, like, you know, who are these organizations and la la la, and they're discovering new music, you know? And that's where we've been like, hey, we're over here. Yep. You know, been here, you know?
Right. It's one of the things that makes your music so unique is that it's high vibration, it's uplifting, and yet it covers so many important issues. So it's not that the lyrics are all only the good, but there's something very spiritually connected about your music, and at the same time, these deep calls to action. So I could imagine for the movements and for what's going on now. And again, it's been a through line through your entire career is activism for indigenous communities and for the planet. But I think it's so rare. There's so much music these days where the lyrics don't speak to the heart the way that yours do. And I think that's part of what's so needed right now is this heart-based, again, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, like heart-based, spirit-based.
Well, there's a way to be able to speak about hard things that hurt, things that are painful, things that are frustrating, things that are angry, but also be able to celebrate them, and I think that's part of what I've learned from just discussing Take Your Power Back and considering what it does. Each album has a thing, it's like a book and it does a thing. It's like Hoka, the last band album was very like, the way we produced it is like very guitar heavy, a lot of songs that were just like, like we're fucking making the charge, and this album is so much more about going inward and holding the hurt but then rejoicing in it, and not staying in that, acknowledging it. And then, so there's like it's a mature experience to like come through it and be like, all right, cool. We're going to reclaim and rebuild, There's always an alternative to my songs. So there's always another version. Love letters to dogs.
Yes.
Love letters to dogs.
I love it. I would love a love letters to dogs. There's another good video for the new YouTube. I mean, you can have. We'll send you clips of our dogs. I mean, this would go viral in a second.
That's hysterical.
And dog is God spelled backwards, so it still works. I mean, dogs are the best. You don't have to tell me twice. Authors will often say whatever title or theme that you choose for your book, kind of watch out because the universe is going to give you that lesson 10 times over in order for you to be the messenger for that in a way. And I wonder if you experienced the same thing with your albums, or let's say with this one, Take Your Power Back. Did you feel that the process of making the album itself called you forth in some new way? I mean, not to mention what's happening now since it's out.
Great question. And absolutely. As I have this huge 9-foot whiteboard in the middle of my living room, and that thing's been used for a long time for different things, actions. And I had probably like 20 different titles I was working with for the album. And there were some good ones on there. This was a whole different experience too, because like before, when I put out the other albums, like I already knew immediately what it was going to be, right? But I was like giving myself, and I had a feeling Take Your Power Back would be the one, but I really wanted to flesh out any other ideas that potentially, could be better or fit better, because still at the same time, like I was still writing songs and did not know just yet, like which songs were going to make it. And based on which songs, fit together, you go, okay, well, what's the umbrella that they're all under, And Take Your Power Back just kept raising its hand, like I am the one. And I had already been going through, this is on the astrology tip, like I had already begun my Saturn return in 2017. and for people who don't know that it's essentially just it's a moment it's like a cycle in your life that you continue to come back to, something like every 12 years or something like
29.
this.
So it's like
29.
It can come on early when you're 27, but it's really 28, 29, 30, and then you sort of exit out at 31.
Yeah, continue. Tell us about it.
For me, it just ripped my whole life apart. And then it kind of, Saturn is the disciplinarian. He's the keeper of time and boundaries and structures. So any structures that need to fall away, the Saturn return will do that. And I felt I call it 2013 was my apocalypse year. The rug kept getting pulled from under my feet, like everywhere I tried to stand for an entire year. And I remember I had studied Buddhism for a while, but I was not a spiritual person. I did not live in a way that was just completely surrendered to the divine. And it was my Saturn return that toward the end of 2013, I thought, I can't live like this. And I read a book called Outrageous Openness that you would love if you haven't already read it. And I started to just surrender things and turn it over and just throw up my hands and just say, I'm not in control here. And it was such a powerful moment. And it's like, and then one day the pressure lifted. And I see what you did there. I see how you turned the tables. But one day the pressure lifted and I'm like, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it had restructured me from the inside out. I have to give a credit to my friend Ari, because the first time I heard you play, I had gone to Bali in January 2015, and I was staying in Ubud, and I'm taking Denise Payne's yoga class every day. I think you know Denise. And Ari said, hey, there's this band Nahko playing Nahko and Medicine for the People. You should really go. It's 2 hours away. I think it was in Changi. What is it? Man.
Chengdu?
Yes. I was like, am I going to get a car and go 2 hours by myself to see a band I've never seen or heard? And I waited till the very last minute to decide, and I went, and then the rest is history.
Hey.
It was so powerful. I then listened to your music on repeat for the rest of the month I was in Bali. And the Darkest Night album is so good for that. It almost sounds like you made half the music in Bali. And so that's my Saturn return.
Yeah. So was it extremely painful, etc., that whole experience?
Yes.
So was it, how long did yours take?
Oh, I would say 3 years of really tough. And then...
Yeah, that was 3 years as me too.
So tell me, how old are you now? I know you just had a birthday.
34.
34. Okay, so you're coming through it. You're coming out the other side, basically. Yeah,
this year was like...
Wow. Listeners, you just made a fish like swimming in the ocean. Or maybe it was a baby coming out of the womb.
It was a little baby bear emerging from the darkness of the world. It was pretty hard. I mean, the last 3 years have been pretty intense. No joke. So I think that the album title was, I was already going through it at that point. And I was writing a lot of the songs that are on the album now during that time too. So, but just like you, it was like everything fell apart. Like and then there was always that one piece of saving grace. Like even this house, I got it like right as things started to like fall apart, where I was ending a relationship. I was ending a contract with the manager. I was like, but it was all like messy, None of it was smooth. And so it triggered a lot of things, but this home now, it was like, it's my Cancer rising is like so happy because I get to like ground in and be home and shit,
It's a beautiful home, by the way. So listeners, if you're on audio, it's like floor to ceiling windows on one wall of the house and just so much greenery in the background. And I can tell it just seems like it must be so grounding for you. And even your home during this, but right away you started broadcasting Sunday service on Instagram and Medicine Tribe TV, your interview series. I love what you're doing. I love seeing it with the video and the split screen. Like you just figured that out so well.
Oh yeah. Well, it was crazy because like like right away after when quarantine started, it was like, I knew that I needed to just play music for folks.
Yes.
So I started doing the Sunday service. And then I think it was like a month in, I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, this is a really dope conversation. I was like, I bet people would like to be able to hear us talk about this. And she was like, yeah, we should do that. And I was like, And then I started to like, you know, trying to figure out what it was going to be called and like all this shit. And, yeah, I've been learning so much just through those conversations though. And like doing my homework on people and being like, okay, what are the questions I need to ask? And like, it's such a weird, it's fun. I have a good time with it.
That's so cool. How has it been for you interviewing people? Like, I know you're usually the one on the mic just riffing at your shows.
Yeah.
How has it been interviewing others?
Oh, it's been so fun. I mean, like, I was talking to my friend Shailene, and right as we went into quarantine, and we're having this like deep talk or whatever, and I was like, yo, this would be so tight I think people would like to hear this conversation because it's actually like very raw and authentic and like, you know, a perspective that could be useful to folks in this time. And she was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then I hashed the idea out a bit more with my manager and came up with the idea of like, okay, maybe it's just not a podcast per se, right? It's just like anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes, you know, and just, you know, have some questions, but like also just get perspectives from folks in a just regular chat, kind of like we're having now, you know, and see what transpires, you know, and like, I'm pretty good. I can push the conversation if it needs to go somewhere or whatever. Right. But yeah, you know, so most of the people I've interviewed now, cause it's been like, I think I'm on episode 26 next Tuesday with Linda Perry from, yeah.
Born on Blondes.
You know, so most of them have been my friends, but then there's a few so far that have been, new meeting on the screen, like Aloe Black. I hadn't met before, and I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and I've never met Linda Perry, and then Ross Golan as well. He's a producer and writer.
How is it interviewing? I don't know if you would consider Aloe Black or Linda Perry heroes necessarily, but how is it for you interviewing these people you've never met but might really respect, admire?
It's wild because like I have to vibe it's like I'm looking at them, so I'm just trying to gauge the energy, you know, and like figure out, are we going to be silly or are we going to be like deep, you know, and like, so I'll try to be formal at first, you know, and I'm just feeling it out, you know. I got some questions. I'll be like, you know, but then at the same time, I just be myself and, you know, see if. Also, you know how it is. You can like throw a couple questions out there, and if they're like into it, you know, you can keep pushing. But you can kind of tell if someone's not interested in whatever. They're just kind of like, well, you know, like whatever, you know. So it's definitely a trick to interview someone and have some set questions, but also be open to however things need to flow, you know.
If you could interview anybody, who would it be?
One person definitely I would want to interview is dead or alive.
Well, alive in the sense like maybe you'll actually get to talk to them, but you could give me dead or alive. I'll take both.
I want to interview Connor Oberst.
Okay. Good one.
Yeah. He's like one of my heroes.
Do you think you'll keep this series going? Like, I know it'd be harder once you're back on the road or turn it into an official podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, you know, like people have asked me if I'm going to continue doing Sunday service, and I'm like, I mean, at least for the foreseeable future, because they're not going to be going anywhere. So.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I could see it turning into an official podcast at some point, you know.
I like you have a very chill vibe as an interviewer. Like, You just seem so comfortable with everybody. I know some you've known for a while, others are brand new, but it's like, it's just very natural. It's not even like an interview. It really, you genuinely achieve somebody feeling like they're sitting there
Thank you.
shooting the breeze with you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was the art of listening, right?
Yeah, that's true. I like it. Wow. 5 years in.
I blew my own mind with that. I was like, wow, the art of
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that really is what it's about. Because we're just here, we're holding space for some dialogue to happen, and we just want this other person that's, being interviewed to just, open up and share
That's right.
what's going on.
Just be in the moment.
Be in that moment.
Be here now, and then now, and
be
then
here,
now.
meow.
Yeah, be here.
Be here, meowing later.
Meowing later, and meow, as you would say, here and now.
Right? I forgot I said that. That's hysterical. Thank you for bringing that back. I totally forgot I said that.
Yeah. Be here, meow.
Be here, meow. That's what happens. I'll start writing something and then I'll crack myself up and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's just leave it.
Yeah, my friend Alexandra says, go with your hut, which is your heart and your gut. So go with your hut and be here, meow.
Because if you did gut and heart, the opposite, it'd be like Gart.
Right.
Or Gwart.
Gwart, which wasn't that the name? Did you watch Silicon Valley on HBO?
I never did.
Oh, there's a really nerdy programmer in the last season. I actually think her name is Gwart or something close to that.
See, she already knew what was going on.
That's right.
I have such a crazy day today. I'm just going to tell you what I have to do because, well, it's just my last day because I'm driving down to LA tomorrow. And you can see it's gorgeous out.
I know.
And when it's nice out, it's so hard for me to be inside.
I know what you mean. And it's hard to be on screens.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just part of the job, right? Right now, especially. Yeah, it's like packing. I got to take my horses out. I have 2 horses. And then
you have horses?
I take them out on Fridays, yeah.
Wow.
And
what are their names?
Foxfire and Jet.
Wow.
Yeah, they came with those names. I've had Jet for 5 years. And
wow.
Well, really? Oh, my God. No, it's 4 years, maybe. Wow. I don't know. Jet I've had for a couple years now. But there's Joe, my baby boys. Dad's here. I guess we're going to go out for a ride. Once they get out of the barn, though, they're really stoked, but they're just like, what are we doing?
Do they have very distinct personalities? Because I'm not as familiar with.
Oh my
I've
God,
never had a horse. They do.
Yeah.
So what are they like?
I look at them as both. I look at them as both having 2 very distinct aspects of myself. Because I'm sure as your dog will develop, you'll be like, "Damn, my dog is kind of like me."
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've had animals before this dog, right?
He's the first one I've had in New York. I've been in New York 9 years. So I grew up with an Australian Shepherd, Patches, till she was 16.
Patches.
Patches, yeah. I had her since 7th grade and like all my life milestones. And yeah, she was great.
Where did you grow up?
San Francisco and Palo Alto. And then I went to UCLA for undergrad and all the while just itching to get out to New York. So now I'm here. But yeah, Ryder's my first dog, like as a real adult and in the city. But yeah,
and you'll see that he'll develop characteristics that you're just like, wow, this is so bizarre. That the similarities, that they share. And with horses, like they are, very, very distinct characters once you get to know them. Foxfire is like, he's a Percheron mix, thoroughbred, black. He's got gorgeous hair. He's like, but he always kind of wears the emo style. So he's always kind of like, I'm sorry. And he's like,
yeah. And then does he do a flip? He must.
Yeah. He's like, all I give a shit about is eating and sleeping. Amazing. But I guess I could go for a ride. And then and he's very alpha and he's very territorial and he's anywhere he goes he's the herd leader. He puts everybody in their place, which it's always a little bit embarrassing when you like introduce your dog to other dogs and that dog's like, I'm dominant. All you serve me, you know, or like, I'm going to pick which ones I like and you guys are going to follow me around the pasture.
Funny.
You're going to trot. I'm going to eat that and you're not, and you're going to move. And, you know, and he's like, I'm just like, bro, stop being a dick, man. Jeez, embarrass me. And
we talked
like,
about this.
Talking about? Yeah. He's like, what are you talking about? This is my shit. This is what I do, bro. What's up? And Jet, I got Foxfire up in Shasta, while we were doing a salmon restoration project, and we were doing a big ride around Lake Shasta, and we did that for a couple years in a row. And then when I moved Foxfire to Topanga, we found Jet, and I had him there for a year, Foxfire there for a year, and then I was going to move him up here to Oregon, and they were like going to sell Jet or something. And they said, do you want to take him? And I was like, this is how people collect horses.
Right.
Because somebody gave me Foxfire, and then they were like, do you want to take this other horse? And I was like, I mean, I'm sure Foxfire like a friend. Jet is a paint, and he's got 2 different colored eyes, very pink nose. He's a little doopy. He's like, so as a rider, he's such a good ride. He's a retired cowboy horse. So he knows what he's doing. And he's very responsive, but he's also kind of like, whoop. He's got a little bit of nervous energy. And he's a little special, you know? So those are the 2 sides of me, a little special, a little derpy, and, super alpha and like very, emo.
A leader taking charge.
Reluctantly.
I don't know if between you and Trevor, and it's funny, my friend who's an astrologer here in New York studied with Deborah. Aquarius sun, Sag moon, and Cancer rising. It's like, oh, it just maps back to so many of your songs and lyrics and the music. It's so cool to see. It's like the Sag is this like adventurous spirit and the spiritual side, and the Cancer is like those home song, like Tus Pies, you know, like these like really grounded, the acoustic and.
Yeah, the home message, the idea of home is so reverberates across so much. And like, you're absolutely right. Like, it's been fascinating for me even just to be like, oh, geez, like, I can tell what time I am too.
Yeah. And then speaking of Aquarius sun, before we hit record, I told you I was going to ask you about aliens.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And Nahko's face
That's my favorite part.
completely lit up. Yeah. Now we have so much excitement. Okay. You are the 3rd person, that I've heard talk about aliens recently, but specifically I've had very smart and very intuitive friends who said, first it's the pandemic, then it's the protests, then it's going to be aliens. Open prompt, Nahko, talk to us about aliens. How'd you get into this? When are they coming?
Well, the deeper you dig, the digger you deep, you come to a realization that they're not even aliens; they're just other people, and there are multiple races, multiple species of interdimensional beings, and I think it's difficult. And it has been difficult over the years to digest some of this information and be open to it, because if you have the premise and understanding that you've been lied to about literally everything in your entire life, and that the illusion we live in is also an illusion, this illusion of, America, this illusion of, freedom and democracy and the illusion of capitalism, even, like this whole system that is completely built off of lies and cheating and genocide and doesn't really serve anybody except for a few wealthy individuals. You can open up to the possibilities of other life forms, other beings, other dimensional fields, the quantum realm. And it doesn't have to be scary. It can definitely be nerve-wracking just because it's so vast and it's so something that's so unknown. And you think, well, are they evil? And do they have, bad intentions? And like, because that's how our minds think. We think it's just black and white like that,
And what we see in the movies.
So, exactly. So, I don't think that your friends are far off from thinking, well, what could get worse? How can 2020 get any worse? And I started to dig into this kind of stuff, probably actually in a deeper way, right as my Saturn Return began. And I started hanging out with some folks that were really deep into it, whether they were, mediums or like astrologers, or like mystical folks, people that like do. I mean, I'm already in the healing circuit, right? In that sense, in that community. And so it was only a matter of time before the people that were really involved in this kind of work, also this kind of teaching, started introducing me to stuff. And I went down the rabbit hole and just did my own research and started to put pieces together and go, oh, okay, there's way more to this than I could understand. So I wouldn't put it past the government or the shadow governments to, they've already told us for years and years and years who our enemies are. They have told us that they are a foreign enemy with weapons of mass destruction. They are the, terrorist group. They are a dictator, dangerous dictator. They are, this or that. Now it's a virus. This is our enemy, and it wouldn't surprise me if at some point to fund the Space Force publicly with public approval, and to divert the attention from something else that's going on, it would be smart and a war tactic to create an unknown enemy that the public has been groomed for through Hollywood, through programs that have faked abductions, that have faked sightings, that continue the propaganda, because as long as they can confuse and control the narrative, then they too feel that they have the control, because they don't know fully either. And so, there's been a counterintelligence movement before the Kennedys, to adapt and control the narrative, because the military-industrial complex is a complex and a patriarchal complex wherein, the first foot forward isn't to make peaceful contact. The first foot forward is to make sure that we are dominant, and that we have the dominant hold, and that we have the dominant technology, because we're afraid of someone else being in control, because we can't understand them.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun to get to know folks like Dr. Greer, who has been teaching meditation protocols to make peaceful contact, because from what we can understand is that these beings and other relatives their technology is based on consciousness, which means that they can, through the quantum entanglement of the web that exists between stars and planets in the universe, this is how they travel and this is how they communicate. Through that, we can not just access like their technology through meditation and projecting that, but we could also create peaceful contact.
It's interesting. I love hearing you just describe all of this. And I know a big theme of Take the Power Back is recognizing our colonized mind. And you being part Native American, like you've been an advocate for so long of just taking acknowledging the land that we're on, acknowledging the foundations of this country. Like none of this is new to you. But I love hearing alien is such a marketed word even. But I know you've done so much with like ancestors and guides and probably have muses, and there's so many angels. I mean, there's so many unseen beings. I know we're almost up on time. And so you said it was okay to ask you before we hit record. I would love if you could play us a song, specifically Love Letters to God. And maybe you could just tell us.
To dogs.
Yeah, Love Letters to Dogs. The reason that I chose this one, to me, there's so many, Nahko has so many gems, but this one in particular is so fitting for the times that we're in. And I'm wondering if you could just give us the brief background on it before you play.
Yeah,
I know
of
there's a
course.
story to it.
Yeah, well, it's a short story, but it's always, I wanted to tell because it actually was written in Bali. And it was just one of those things that like, almost like a word vomit, you know? Cause once I caught the cadence to it, like once that sort of like rhythm came, it was like really fun because I could just pick one word and then follow up with it. It was like a word game,
Yes.
you know, like
yes, it has such
give.
rhythm. Yes.
All right, what do I want to give? Oh, always give what you can. Okay. Oh, cool. I'm very sweet. You know, and yeah, I was actually with Shailene at the time. We were in Indonesia, and I remember her just sitting there, and I think she was like reading a book or something. And I was like, damn. I think I said that first line. I looked at her and she was like,
I love it. She was at the concert. The first time I saw you in concert, she was there. And this one was my anthem. I sung this song with you every day. I would wake up in the morning and sing it. And it was like so healing and so empowering to sing this song and get into the groove of it. So yeah, thank you for sharing the story of it.
Where was that show?
Well, I think Canggu.
Oh, Canggu.
The little place. And it was like, she was there. She was wearing shorts. You guys were very cute together. I know.
I remember.
You know? Yeah.
That's crazy. That was literally when I was writing the song.
Okay. And you might have even been a little sick because I think you were playing Aloha, which listeners, you have to go look up that YouTube video. It's a classic, but I think you might have been sick. You like stopped it, but it was a great show.
I forgot about that show. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was our like universe crossing moment. And yeah, it's really special. I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Can you hear this all right?
Yes.
Always give what you can, even if your allies draw lines in the sand and dig. Always dig a little deeper. Sometimes it's hard to be my brother's keeper, love. So you let love in. Baby, I am warm in the wake of your skin, and it's crazy how we wear our ceremony. Always be open to your path and your journey, yes. She cradles my loneliness, a home that I for is last. Universal test, feel the weight of my life, but your hand on my chest and rest. In the cradle of my arms, the battle that we face is the place where our scars come from. To pick up the gun, my love, we are destined to teach these ones to be brave. Never run away, courage is birthed from the womb on the first light of day. Yeah, the day you were born, you came out perfect, never meant to be torn in silence. Never been so loud in the violence, never been so proud of the people. When we're fighting for a change, not afraid to lose it all, despite all the rage. We are animals, and we cannot be caged. Provoke us to fight, so we burn a little sage and write poetry. Wiser than the enemy will ever be. The minority and authority. Are you here to protect or arrest me? I can't tolerate the hate and I'm losing sleep. Can't breathe cause they're choking out the war in me. Immorality, yeah. Love letters to God. I wonder if she reads them or if they get lost in the stars. Stars in the stars. So many parts to a heavy heart. If there's no beginning, where would you start? Start, where would you start? Human souls, so we carve them into story totem poles, cause we're always searching for a certain goal. A pattern of physics or all. Don't believe what you're told and open up your fist. A misconception you can fight like this and praise. With the power of prayer, of God's on our side, you can take the stairs to the heavens. Flipping through my chapter 7, I live with the snakes and the great deception. No court in this country for men who steal from the mother on paper with pen, and we're tripping down a red dirt road and we're asking, is this the way we should go? Kissing soft top feet of my goddess. We'll walk the earth, baby, yeah, we got this focus. And it's redirected, grateful, but I'm resurrected, stubborn. But I know the way, you're the skin on my drum. To your rhythm I will sway, take my hand, I won't lead you astray. We will not go gently into the darkest of days. Grandma's here, and she says persevere. Take a walk in her mocks, take the trail of tears, and our fears are the same as the ever were beers. Numb the pain of a Holocaust years. Always mobbing in motion, maybe. Baby being under the notion, your arches. How they bend and contract on my conscience. Never slept through the grip of my thesis. And my theory is I shine in your presence. A deliverance, yeah. Love letters to God. I wonder if she reads them or if they get lost in the stars, stars in the stars. So many parts to a heavy heart. If there's no beginning, then where would you start? Start, where would you start? Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Salam jalan.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Nahko. I can't possibly thank you enough for the medicine your music has brought into my life. And I feel like 5 years of podcasting have helped me build to this moment to have you on the show. And damn, to get to have a live performance for Pop Pivot podcast listeners. I'm beyond grateful. We did it. Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you for all that you do. You make a difference in so many people's lives. And
do I get to meet the dog?
Yes, the world is better with you in it. Let me go get Ryder. I wonder if he's upstairs. Ryder. At this point, I stopped hitting record and I unplugged the laptop, brought the computer over so that Nahko could meet Ryder. And we had a lot of fun. Ryder was totally wiped out. It's a hot 90-degree New York City day. So he was just laid in the bathroom tile in the dark, trying to get some rest. As promised at the beginning, here is now a few of my little mini bloopers or outtakes from the intro, and you can laugh with me at how very nervous I was to do this interview. If you're a podcaster or creative of any kind, I hope it gives you a little encouragement to shine in all your awkward glory and do those big, scary things anyway. Here you go. Oh, yeah. And I wanted to ask you before, is it annoying to sing a song or joyful?
Is it annoying?
Yeah. Is it annoying?
It's not annoying.
Okay.
Do you have any particular requests?
I do. I was wondering if you could play Love Letters to God.
Oh, guaranteed. I got you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's so needed for this moment.
Mercury and Gatorade's no joke.
Mercury and Gatorade. I've never heard that. That's a good one. I'm going to ask you. Oh, yeah. We have so much to talk about, Nahko. Okay.
Okay,
We're going to do this because
yeah.
I want to get into astrology. We're getting into all of it right now. Okay. P.S. They call this the awkward show. My friends already make fun of me that I'm the awkward show, so just get used to it. Okay? All right. Here we go.
I'm awkward, so.
I love that you embrace your weirdness, you know? Oh, yeah.
You got to.
All right.
And then you'll send me a request, and then I'll accept it. And then
yeah. And I might ask you about aliens if we have time, too. So, you know, just get ready.
I'm so available for that. Now we're talking.
Oh, my God. Okay, amazing. Wonderful. Okay. Okay.
There you go.
All right, you ready for this?
Hang on. All right, we're good.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. That's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed these outtakes. Have a beautiful day. Thank you again, Nahko. You're the best. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Pivot Podcast. Make sure you don't miss an episode or my insider tips and templates by signing up for Pivot List, a curated twice-monthly newsletter where I share the inside scoop on what I'm reading, watching, listening to, and the latest tools I'm geeking out on. Sign up at pivotmethod.com/pivotlist. Get show notes from this episode at pivotmethod.com/podcast and connect with me on Twitter at Jenny_Blake. Remember, build first, then your courage will follow. Hasn't it always?